Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun and hopefully informative video, we are going to be talking about how to fix a scroll saw's aggressive forward bite to get the most out of your scroll saw woodworking experience. Hopefully this is not a long and drawn out video, but it is an essential modification that you need to do to a lot of lower to mid-range scroll saws. When you get up to the scroll saws that cost thousands of dollars, that's usually not a modification that you need to do. Please keep in mind, I only encourage you guys to do this modification if you are comfortable taking your scroll saw apart and double checking everything, because you're going to have to take it apart, do some modifications with the metal, and then put the machine back together. Only do that if you are comfortable out in your garage or workshop. If you are going to be doing a lot of flat two-dimensional pieces, like say this Welcome Autumn piece we done in a previous video, this is not going to be an essential modification that you need to do. But if you want to take the scroll saw to the next level and do a lot of compound cutting like I like to do, like this Enjoy Today compound cut word art by Steve Good, or the compound cut keychains that I like to do, this is going to be a very essential modification. Also, especially if you like to do a lot of stack cutting, which you guys know I also like to do. Before we get into this video, I want to give a shout out to two videos that really inspired this video, because I'm kind of piggybacking off of what they said. I just wanted to do an updated video and talk about my experiences with the modification that I done on my Delta 20-inch scroll saw. I dug it back out and got it here on the workbench. The first video I want to recommend is one by Trevor Carter at Trevor's Woodshop. He's the video that was recommended to me through Sterling Davis back when I needed to do the modification on the Delta scroll saw, and he done the original modification on his DeWalt scroll saw, you know, the yellow version of this saw. And then I also want to give a shout out to Matt at Awesome Wood Things on how to lubricate a scroll saw once you take it apart. Lubricating the bearings is something that you have to do on this model of scroll saw, and he had a great video. So did Trevor. I'll leave a link to both of those videos down in the comments in the description box below the video, so you guys can hopefully go view and enjoy them, and like, share, follow, and subscribe to their social media platforms. But again, I've got out my old Delta scroll saw, and the best way possible that I know how to do this video is to show you with my 3D printed blade alignment jig what I'm trying to talk about and showcase in today's video. So what we're going to need to do now is take the camera off of the tripod to get a little bit closer over at the Rikon scroll saw and also the Delta scroll saw. So let's move the camera and do that now. And before we step over to the Delta scroll saw, I want to hopefully illustrate what I'm trying to talk about in today's video over at the Rikon scroll saw. Now, for most scroll saw woodworking projects, you need to make sure that the blade is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees to the scroll saw's work table, and you can usually double check with the gauge underneath the work table, but I like to quickly reassure myself with the 3D printed blade alignment jigs. And what it simply does is goes into the slot there, the blade that is, and I can quickly tell that my scroll saw is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees for stack or compound cutting, or cutting out thicker material to make sure it's square. And a lot of scroll saw woodworkers will only check that it's square from this angle here, like you were about to sit down and scroll, but you also need to check it from this angle, because this is where the aggressive forward bite comes in. And what we're going to do is simply rotate the blade jig there, and you can see that the blade stayed in the slot and everything is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees. Again, this is a modification that you need to do to a lot of lower to mid-range scroll saws, and it involves modifying one of the rocker arms. And once again, I want to hopefully encourage you guys to only do this if you are comfortable with taking apart the scroll saw and putting it back together. But you can see I've done the modification on the Delta scroll saw that I'm about to show you, and it is also dialed in at a perfect 90. And I hope it goes without saying that the scroll saw is unplugged for everything I'm showing you here. Here is the side view of the Delta 20-inch scroll saw, and it's the best way possible that I know how to illustrate this. I'm going to move the dust blower here, and you can see that the blade alignment jig is still in the scroll saw there, and it's dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees. And the modification that I'm going to be talking about is the one that Trevor done in the video that I'll have linked in the description, and it involves modifying the bottom rocker arm frame. You really don't have to do anything to the front, the top of the scroll saw up here. It's all going to take place underneath here. And to better illustrate that, I will take the table off of the scroll saw. But before I get into that, I have quickly drawn a crude side drawing of the scroll saw there. You can see the blade going through the table and everything. And what we're going to be talking about is the bottom rocker arm here. This is where all of the action, so to speak, is going to take place. And for most lower to mid-range scroll saws, again, you want it dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees from the side profile as well as the front profile. But a lot of the lower to mid-range scroll saws, the blade will want to be in there like that at kind of an angle, which will give you the aggressive cut we are talking about. And it'll be very detrimental if you are trying to do a lot of stack cutting or compound cutting. Once you get the cut done, it will not want to come apart or slide apart smoothly and seamlessly. So what we're going to have to do is grind away some metal. And again, I urge you guys, only do this if you are comfortable doing it over on your scroll saw. If not, seek out someone that can do it and do it to the best of their abilities. But the top and bottom rocker arm has these bolts that hold it in place, and what we're going to have to do is take those little circles, or what I've already done over here on this scroll saw, I'll show you when we remove the table, is grind them out to where they're kind of oblong, to where you can bring that bottom rocker arm forward ever so slightly to make sure that that blade is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees. Let me get the table removed and I'll show you guys hopefully what I'm talking about. I have removed the blade from the scroll saw, and I have removed the knob that tightens down the table to lock it in place, and now it should, there we go, easily slide away. And let me find me a brush, and we will clean up everything here. And I'll move the camera a little bit closer to show you guys what I am talking about. I have cleaned away the sawdust with a brush and got the camera as close as possible to where I can hopefully finally illustrate what I am talking about. And you can easily and hopefully see the modification here. When you get a scroll saw like this from the factory, the rocker arm itself is flush with the black material here, which is metal. It's a two-piece design. There's a piece on this side and a piece on this side sandwiched to the rocker arm's rod and the rocker arm itself to hold everything together. And again, only do this modification if you are comfortable doing it, because there is very little room for error when doing it. What you need to do is remove these two screws here. I don't think I had to remove the bottom screws. I think I only had to loosen them to get the rocker arm to pivot. And the holes that have the screws in them are of course little circles. You just need to take something and elongate them into kind of an oval to where you can slide the rocker arm forward. And I believe I done a trial and error day out here in the workshop, and I ended up having to put the table back on, remove it, put it on, remove it several times to make sure that scroll saw was dialed in as precisely as possible. And Trevor in his video gives you a great starting point. He used, I believe, a 1/16 of an inch drill bit, and you can see it will just go in there. He said start off here, but you can see that it fits in there so loosely. This is just a drill bit I drill out pilot holes for scroll saw woodworking with. It just fits in there so loosely. I think I had to come forward a little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch. Again, you're just going to have to play around with it. And please be careful when grinding out this metal, because you do not want to hit the threads in the bottom rocker arm itself. But this is the best way possible I know how to talk about this upgrade. When I did it, it was a night and day difference over here on the Delta scroll saw when I was using it as my daily scroll saw. And the scroll saw then started cutting so smoothly and so precisely. What I'm going to do now is plug the scroll saw up so you guys can see it running without the table on it, to show that the rocker arm is of course locked in place. And before I move the camera and close the video, I do want to plug the scroll saw up so you guys can see it running without the table. Of course, when I've done this modification, I made sure everything was locked in tight in place so nothing would move around or fall back into its original position. Now, I do not have the scroll saw bolted to the table. It's just sitting up here, so I will hold it so it won't want to walk around, but we will give it power. But as you can see, hopefully you can hear me, that it is still running nice and smooth. But really, really cool. I'll put the table back on the scroll saw and I'll pack it away with love and care. And I hope in some way, shape, or form in this video that I have showcased today, in the videos that I have left links to in the description box below, to where I originally learned about this modification and how to lubricate all of the bearings in the scroll saw, I hope it at least encourages you guys to go out and investigate and see if your scroll saw is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees out in your garage or workshop. Let me move the camera one more time and we'll close the video. Alright my friends, that's going to about wrap up today's video. Hopefully you guys found it encouraging as well as informative when it comes to fixing a scroll saw's aggressive forward bite. Once again my friends, I cannot stress it enough, only do the modification where you have to grind away the material if you are comfortable doing it. If not, please seek out someone who is comfortable working with machine parts like that, because once you start grinding away the metal, you are pretty much committed. And as I said, there is very little room for error, and I'd be very disheartened if one of you guys tried this modification and ended up damaging your scroll saw beyond repair. Scroll saw woodworking is still my favorite thing to do out in the workshop. It is so relaxing and so therapeutic, and once I've done that modification over on the Delta, it became that much more enjoyable. I remember when I very first got the Delta, it did not have that forward bite. It developed it over time. I do not know the reason why, but again, I piggybacked off of two other YouTubers' videos in today's video. When I found out and discovered that the Delta scroll saw that I was using daily had started developing the forward bite, I reached out to Sterling Davis, who I know had a similar scroll saw. At the time, he had the yellow DeWalt scroll saw, and I showed him the pictures using jigs and everything, and he recommended the video that I'm recommended to you guys today, the one that Trevor Carter at Trevor's Woodshop posted. And again, it'll be linked in the description box below so you guys can go and see it, and he walks you through it step by step on how to take the scroll saw apart and everything. It's a very informative video. And I also want to piggyback off of my buddy Matt at Awesome Wood Things video. His video was also so informative. He took apart a yellow DeWalt scroll saw, but it's very similar to this one, and lubricated and maintained all of the bearings and inner workings. And I've done that as well to make sure the scroll saw was running to the best of its abilities. That way I can enjoy the scroll saw woodworking hobby. And in today's video, I showed you guys using the 3D printed blade alignment jigs that I offer, but by no means do you need this jig to double check everything. You can get a small square from the hardwood store. You can get maybe a little school protractor or something like that to quickly check everything. But I know a lot of scroll saw woodworkers, especially new scroll saw woodworkers, will only want to check the blade's squareness from just sitting facing the scroll saw, and they do not have a clue to check it from the side profile. Again, it's very detrimental if you want to do a lot of scroll saw compound cutting, stack cutting, or cutting out thicker material, or should I say very essential that you double check it like this, because it can be very detrimental and your cuts will not come out perfectly square. But I had a lot of fun making this video and documenting it. Once again, links to those other two videos I talked about will be down in the description box below the video. Thank you Matt and thank you Trevor for two awesome pieces of scroll saw woodworking content that you provided to this platform. And hopefully I've just thrown my hat, my bandana so to speak, in the ring as well, to hopefully encourage you guys to at least go and investigate if your scroll saw is dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees. But if you have any questions or comments, please let me know down in the comment section. I'll be happy to get back to you guys. I'm happy, as always, to teach scroll saw woodworking, and as I always say, inspire, educate, elevate, and motivate one another, my friends. That's how we get through in the woodworking world. We reach out and get in touch with everyone, and then we help each other elevate our skill set and inspire each other to get to that next level through motivation. So really, really cool. That's about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button, and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me, as well as all my social media feeds, will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.